The silent void of space was suddenly interrupted by the appearance, a massive fleet materializing at the edge of the solar system. Dozens of sleek, predatory vessels emerged from hyperspace, their metallic surfaces gleaming under the distant sun's light. The fleet moved with practiced precision, spreading out into a tactical formation that had conquered dozens of worlds across 3-star systems. On the command bridge of the flagship, Supreme Commander Vaderix stood with his arms crossed behind his back, 6 eyes scanning the tactical displays with satisfaction. His tall frame cast a long shadow across the polished floor as subordinates rushed about, preparing for what they all believed would be a simple disciplinary action against yet another primitive world. "There it is," Vaderix said, gesturing toward the small blue planet shown on the main view screen. Terra, or Earth, as the natives call it. Intelligence Chief Siraxa moved forward, her slender form reflecting the concern evident in her posture. "Supreme Commander, I must once again express my reservations about our intelligence. The data on human military capabilities is incomplete. Perhaps we should conduct further surveillance before." "Enough," Vaderix cut her off with a dismissive wave. "Your caution borders on cowardice, Siraxa. Look at their technological development. They have barely begun interplanetary travel within their own system. Their most advanced weapons rely on chemical propellants and limited nuclear fusion. They are centuries behind us. But the transmissions we've intercepted suggest. Suggest what? That they have some secret defense system? Every species claims such things when faced with superior force." Vaderix pointed to a holographic display showing the Earth's orbital installations. "See how primitive their orbital defenses are? They are ripe for conquest, or rather, disciplinary action, as command insists we call it." Siraxa lowered her gaze respectfully, but remained unconvinced. Something about the humans bothered her. They were quiet in terms of interstellar diplomacy, maintaining an appearance of middling technological development. But occasionally, their communications hinted at capabilities beyond what seemed possible for their apparent level of advancement. "Prepare the warning shots," Vaderix ordered. "Target uninhabited regions to demonstrate our power. Then broadcast our demands for surrender across all their communication channels." As the alien fleet advanced toward Earth, Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Donovan was already tracking their approach from her command post aboard the Orbital Defense Platform Alpha. At 42, with 15 years of military space service, she had expected her career would involve mostly training exercises and occasional skirmishes with rogue asteroids. Now, she faced an alien invasion force. "How many ships?" she asked, her voice remarkably steady despite the situation. Lieutenant Marcus Reed, her systems and electronic warfare specialist, studied the radar data. 73 vessels that we can detect, Colonel. Various sizes, but the flagship is massive, nearly 2 kilometers in length. "And our status?" Linda Vu, the weapons specialist, responded without looking up from her console. "All defensive drones primed and in position. Energy trap systems online. Sentinel platforms are passively scanning, but remain in stealth mode, as ordered." Donovan nodded, taking a deep breath. Her unit, officially designated as the 5th Orbital Response Team, was not particularly large or impressive by Earth standards. They were essentially a forward observation and first response team, meant to handle minor threats and gather intelligence. Now they faced an armada. Her comm system chimed. The stern face of General Hayes appeared on screen. "Colonel Donovan, I assume you're tracking the situation." "Yes, sir. They'll be in firing range of Earth within 30 minutes. You understand your position in this engagement, Colonel?" Donovan nodded. "We're the strategic scout unit. First line of defense, but not the last." "Exactly. Delay them. Gather as much intelligence as possible about their weapons systems, tactical approaches, and communication protocols. But do not reveal all our capabilities. You're the scout in this chess game, Colonel, valuable, but not our queen." "Understood, sir. The rest of the defensive grid is being readied, but we need time. Your unit's performance will determine much of our strategy going forward." The communication ended, leaving Donovan to contemplate the weight of her position. She turned to her team of 12 specialists, all that stood between humanity and the first wave of alien aggression. "They're moving," Reed announced. Energy readings spiking from multiple vessels. Moments later, brilliant beams of plasma streaked toward Earth, striking deserts, mountain ranges, and ocean areas, all deliberately uninhabited as a show of force. Then all human. Communications networks worldwide were overridden by an alien broadcast. Supreme Commander Vaderix's imposing figure appeared on screens globally. His translator converted his speech into perfect English. "People of Earth, we are the Krasit Imperium, masters of the Orion Spur. Your world has been observed and found wanting. Your government's petty squabbles and military posturing have drawn our attention. Surrender your military installations and accept our governance, or face annihilation. You have 1 Earth hour to comply." In a command center beneath the Pentagon, world leaders had already gathered in emergency session. The President of the United States looked grim as he addressed the others. "We've prepared for this possibility for decades. Protocol Thermopylae is now active." Around the table, the assembled leaders nodded. One asked, "And Colonel Donovan's unit?" "There are scouts," the President replied. "Let's hope they can buy us enough time." In orbit, Sarah Donovan watched as the alien fleet moved closer, spreading out to establish dominance over Earth's key strategic points. "Their positioning for planetary assault," Vu noted. "Dispersal pattern suggests they plan to hit military bases first, then communication hubs." "Then let's give them something to think about," Donovan replied. "Reed, deploy the first wave of defensive drones. Standard evasion patterns. Vu, prepare energy traps along their most likely approach vectors. They'll see those as primitive compared to what they're expecting," Reed warned. "That's the idea," Donovan said with a tight smile. "Let's not show our full hand just yet." The first skirmish of Earth's defense began not with a bang, but with a whisper. Small, seemingly primitive defensive drones emerged from concealed positions around Earth's orbit. To alien sensors, they appeared as barely armed units with limited maneuverability. Vaderix laughed when he saw the Earth's initial defense. "Is this all they have? These toys?" He gestured casually to his weapons officer. "Dispatch them quickly and proceed with the invasion." The alien vessels fired, expecting to easily obliterate the human drones. Most were destroyed, but a surprising number evaded the initial barrage with unexpected agility. Then the drones counterattacked. What seemed like simple projectile weapons suddenly shifted frequency, piercing alien shields calibrated against more advanced attacks. 3 smaller Krasit vessels reported shield failures. "What is happening?" Vaderix demanded. "Their weapons, they're adapting," a tactical officer reported with surprise. "The targeting systems are shifting frequencies faster than our automatic defenses can compensate. Impossible. Their technology shouldn't allow for such rapid battlefield adaptations." Saraxa moved to a data terminal, analyzing the incoming information. "It seems our intelligence was indeed flawed, Commander. These human weapons show sophistication beyond their expected development level." "A minor setback," Vaderix growled. "Launch the ground invasion. Target their major military installations. Let's see how they handle direct assault." On Earth's surface, panic spread as alien landing craft breached the atmosphere, heading toward military bases around the world. Television broadcasts showed massive walkers and hovering platforms deploying from the ships, unleashing devastating laser fire on conventional military forces. Tank divisions were vaporized. Fighter jets were swatted from the sky. Conventional military bases that had seemed formidable just hours before were reduced to smoking ruins. Yet through the chaos, a pattern emerged. The aliens were hitting only publicly known military installations, the obvious targets anyone could find on Google Maps. The real heart of Earth's defense remained untouched. In her orbital command post, Donovan monitored the developing situation. "They're taking the bait," she said quietly. "Reed, how are we doing on the data collection?" "We've captured significant telemetry on their weapons systems, shield harmonics, and communication protocols," Reed reported. "The adaptive algorithms are already analyzing patterns. Good. Vu, prepare the second wave of drones. This time, let's show them something a little more interesting. As the alien forces spread across Earth's surface, celebrating their apparently easy victories against human military might, a new threat emerged. From hidden silos, underwater bases, and camouflage mountain fortresses came swarms of small, agile combat drones. Unlike the orbital defense units, these were numerous and distributed, attacking from thousands of locations simultaneously. On the Crozet flagship, alerts sounded as reports flooded in from ground forces suddenly under attack. What is happening? Vaderix demanded. Our ground forces report coordinated attacks from small automated units, an officer replied. They're emerging from concealed positions. Worldwide, far more than our intelligence suggested they possessed. Saraxa studied the incoming data with growing concern. These aren't simple drones, Commander. They're showing signs of tactical coordination and learning capabilities. They're identifying our vulnerabilities and exploiting them in real time. How is this possible? Their technological level may have been deliberately misrepresented, Saraxa finished. Or we may have misinterpreted what we observed. On Earth's surface, the alien invasion forces found themselves suddenly fighting a different kind of battle. What had seemed like easy conquests of obvious military targets now turned into 1,000 small engagements against enemies that refused to mass in easily targetable formations. A Crozet ground commander's transmission reached the flagship. They're everywhere. Small units hitting and retreating before we can respond effectively. Our heavy weapons can't target them fast enough. Vaderix slammed his fist on the command console. Escalate. Begin orbital bombardment of their major cities. Force their defensive units to reveal themselves by threatening their population centers. As the order went out, several Crozet ships repositioned for orbital strikes against New York, London, Beijing, and other major population centers. But as they did, something unexpected happened in orbit. The Sentinel station, previously appearing dormant to alien sensors, suddenly activated. Powerful microwave beam emitters swiveled and fired, targeting communication arrays on the alien vessels. Several ships found their command and control systems suddenly compromised. We're being jammed, a communications officer shouted. Multiple frequencies. They're blocking our coordination with ground forces. Meanwhile, Donovan led a small team of spacesuited personnel toward a Crozet supply vessel that had been separated from the main fleet. Using maneuvering packs that made them nearly invisible against the backdrop of space, they approached the ship's airlock. Reed, are you into their systems yet? Donovan asked over her secure comm. Almost there, Colonel. Their cybersecurity is advanced but follows predictable patterns. I've created a backdoor. And we're in. Airlock cycling now. The team entered the alien vessel, moving quickly to secure its control center. Most of the crew had been deployed to the surface, leaving only a skeleton staff aboard. They were quickly subdued. Access their command database. Donovan ordered as Reed plugged into the alien computer system. Download everything you can about their fleet deployment and weaknesses. Already on it, Reed replied. There's something interesting here. Tactical assessments of our resistance. They think they're fighting our main defense force. They have no idea that we're just the scouts. Donovan finished with a grim smile. Let's make sure that information gets back to command. On Earth, the alien ground forces continued to face unexpectedly stiff resistance. What had seemed like an easy conquest was turning into a costly engagement. Alien commanders reported losing units to ambushes, electronic warfare that turned their own systems against them, and defenses that seemed to adapt to their tactics with unsettling speed. In orbit, more Crozet ships found their systems compromised by the Sentinel station's emissions. Vaderix watched in growing anger as his invasion force's advantages steadily eroded. How is this happening? He demanded. These humans should be begging for mercy by now. Saraxa approached cautiously. Commander, analysis of the human resistance pattern suggests something concerning. Their defensive measures appear distributed and layered, characteristics of a military that is prepared specifically for invasion scenarios. Are you suggesting they knew we were coming? Not necessarily. but they may have developed their defenses with the possibility of alien contact in mind. She hesitated before continuing. There's another possibility. What if what we're facing isn't their main defensive force at all? Vaderix turned her sharply. Explain. The pattern of resistance, small, distributed units using hit-and-run tactics rather than mass forces. Limited orbital assets that focus on intelligence gathering and communication disruption rather than direct confrontation. These are the hallmarks of scout forces, Vaderix finished, his voice suddenly quiet with dawning comprehension. Forward units designed to delay and gather intelligence while the main force prepares. Saraxa nodded. If these are merely their scout units, then where is their main fleet? The answer came moments later as space itself seemed to ripple and distort around the dark side of the moon. Emerging from perfect stealth conditions came the true human defense fleet. Dozens of massive warships that had been concealed using technology the Crozet had not believed humans possessed. The ships were angular and functional, lacking the elegant curves of Crozet vessels, but radiating undeniable power. Leading them was the USS Thermopylae, Earth's first true interstellar carrier and the flagship of the United Earth Space Navy. On its bridge stood Admiral Joanna Beck, her silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a severe bun, her uniform bearing the stars of Earth's unified command. She studied the tactical display, showing the positions of the alien fleet, now caught between her forces and Earth's orbital defenses. Status report, she demanded. All ships reporting ready, Admiral, her XO replied. Weapons hot, shields at maximum. Colonel Donovan's scout team has transmitted comprehensive data on enemy capabilities and weaknesses. Excellent. Open a channel to the alien command vessel. On the Crozet flagship, Vaderix stared in disbelief at the human fleet now revealed. Impossible, he whispered. Where did these ships come from? How do we not detect them? Sir, a communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through, Vaderix ordered, his voice tight with suppressed rage. Admiral Beck's face appeared on the main view screen. This is Admiral Joanna Beck of the United Earth Space Navy. Your forces have committed acts of aggression against Earth and its citizens. You have two options: immediate withdrawal from our system or total defeat. Vaderix managed to regain his composure. You bluff well, human. But your ships, impressive as this reveal may be, cannot match the technology of the Crozet Imperium. We have conquered worlds far more advanced than yours. Perhaps, Beck replied calmly. But you've been fighting a single scout unit of our defense force for the past several hours, and they've managed to significantly damage your capabilities. Imagine what our main battle fleet will do. Scout unit, Vaderix repeated, unable to hide his shock. Colonel Donovan's orbital response team is designated as a forward scout unit. First contact, intelligence gathering, and initial delaying tactics. They're not meant for extended combat operations against a superior force. Yet they've held their own against your fleet admirably. As if to emphasize this point, Donovan's team chose that moment to disable the shields on the Crozet supply ship they had infiltrated. A series of small explosions rippled along its hull as critical systems were sabotaged from within. We can continue this demonstration, Beck said, or you can recognize that your intelligence on Earth was catastrophically wrong and withdraw while you still have a fleet capable of retreat. Vaderix turned to Saraxa, genuine fear now visible in his expression. Is it possible? Have we been fighting mere scouts this entire time? Saraxa nodded slowly. It would explain the tactical patterns we've observed. They never committed their full force. They were studying us, learning our capabilities, feeding data to their main fleet. On a separate channel, one of Vaderix's subordinate commanders was becoming desperate. Supreme Commander, we should consider withdrawal. If these are their capabilities after decades of hiding their true technology, who knows what other surprises they have. Vaderix's pride would not allow such an easy surrender. Prepare the Void Catalyst, he ordered suddenly. If we cannot conquer this world, we will make an example of it. The Void Catalyst was the Crozet's most devastating weapon, a device capable of creating a localized rupture in space-time that could tear apart a planetary surface. It had never been used on an inhabited world before, merely demonstrated on barren moons to terrorize other species into submission. Supreme Commander, Siraxa protested. The use of such a weapon would violate Imperial directive. I did not ask for your opinion, Intelligence Chief, Vaderix snapped. The humans have forced our hand. Prepare the weapon. As the massive weapon began charging aboard the flagship, alarm signals flashed across the displays in Admiral Beck's command center. Energy readings from the alien flagship, her science officer reported. Massive power buildup consistent with theoretical space-time manipulation technology. Beck turned to her communications officer. Give me Colonel Donovan. Donovan's face appeared on screen moments later, her space helmet reflecting the interior lights of the alien vessel she had infiltrated. Admiral, Colonel, the alien flagship is preparing some kind of superweapon. Based on your position and the data you've gathered, what options do we have? Their systems follow similar architectural principles across their fleet, Donovan replied. If this weapon operates on the same control protocols, we can use what we've learned to disrupt it. But we'll need to get closer to the flagship. Too risky to approach conventionally, Beck said, but maybe not necessary. She turned to her tactical officer. Deploy the Peregrine. Units. From the hangars of Earth's warships emerged swarms of small, ultra-maneuverable craft. Unlike the defensive drones used earlier, these were piloted vessels, single-person fighters equipped with the most advanced stealth and electronic warfare capabilities Earth had developed. Peregrine units, Beck addressed the pilots. Your mission is to provide cover for Colonel Donovan's team to approach the alien flagship and neutralize their superweapon. All other vessels, prepare to engage the Crozet fleet to draw their attention. The battle erupted in full force. No longer a skirmish between scouts and invaders, but a full-scale space engagement. Earth's main fleet revealed weapons systems that shocked the Crozet commanders. Focused gravitational distortion beams that twisted alien hull plates, quantum-locked targeting systems that predicted evasive maneuvers before they happened, and shield technologies that adapted to incoming fire. Meanwhile, Donovan's team, supported by the Peregrine fighters creating chaos around the Crozet flagship, approached the massive vessel. Using the infiltration techniques they had perfected on the supply ship, they breached the outer hull near a secondary control node. We're in, Donovan reported as her team secured their entry point. Reed, what are we looking at? Reed studied the alien computer terminal they had accessed. The weapon system is isolated from the main network, security protocol. But there's a physical connection point 3 decks up. If we can reach it, I can insert the disruption sequence. Let's move, Donovan ordered. The team fought their way through the flagship, encountering increasing resistance as the Crozet security forces responded to the breach. But the aliens were disorganized, their confidence shattered by the revelation that they had grossly underestimated human capabilities. On the command bridge, Vaderix watched in mounting horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled by Earth's forces. Ships that had conquered a dozen worlds were now being disabled or destroyed by humans, a species he had dismissed as barely space-capable. The Void Catalyst is at 80% charge, an officer reported. But we're detecting intruders approaching the control junction. Seal all access points. Vaderix shouted. Deploy all security forces. Siraxa, who had been monitoring the battle with growing concern, finally spoke up. Commander, we have lost. The humans have outmaneuvered us at every turn. If that weapon activates, they will not show mercy in their response. Silence. I will not surrender to primitives. These are not primitives, Siraxa insisted. They're a species that concealed their true capabilities, allowed us to underestimate them, and then sprung a trap we walked into willingly. That is not the action of an inferior intellect. Before Vaderix could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared across the command bridge. Void catalyst control systems are compromised, an officer shouted. The containment field is collapsing. Shut it down, Vaderix ordered in panic. Emergency protocols. We can't. The systems aren't responding. At the weapon control junction, Donovan watched as Reed finished implementing his virus. That should do it, Reed announced. I've locked them out of their own weapon and initiated a controlled power-down sequence. Good work, Donovan replied. Now let's make sure they can't try something like this again. She placed a series of charges at key points around the control room. Minutes later, Donovan's team had extracted safely back to their own vessels as secondary explosions rippled through the Kraza flagship. The superweapon had been neutralized, its power core safely contained but permanently disabled. With their ultimate weapon neutralized and their fleet in disarray, the Kraza invasion force faced the inevitable. Admiral Beck's voice echoed through all their communication channels. Your flagship is disabled. Your weapon has been neutralized. Your fleet is surrounded. These are your final options. Unconditional surrender, with all personnel to be detained until diplomatic arrangements can be made for your return to your territory, or complete destruction. You have 5 minutes to decide. On the crippled flagship, Vaderix slumped in his command chair, the reality of defeat finally sinking in. Around him, his officers looked to him for direction, but found only shock and disbelief. Saraxa stepped forward. Supreme Commander, with respect, I am invoking Emergency Protocol 7 of the Imperial Code. As Intelligence Chief, I am assuming temporary command to prevent further loss of life. She turned to the communications officer. Broadcast our surrender. All vessels are to power down weapons and prepare for boarding. The greatest armada the Kraza had ever sent against a single world had been defeated, not by superior numbers, but by systematic underestimation of their opponent, and careful planning by humanity. 2 weeks later, Vaderix stood in chains before a human military tribunal. His once proud uniform had been stripped of its insignia of rank, his demeanor that of a broken warrior. Admiral Beck and Colonel Donovan sat among the panel of judges. Do you understand the charges against you? The lead judge asked. Ido, Vaderix replied hoarsely. Unprovoked aggression against Earth. Attacks on civilian areas. Attempted deployment of a prohibited weapon of mass destruction. And how do you plead? What does it matter? Vaderix asked bitterly. You have already won. Beck leaned forward. This proceeding isn't about winning or losing, Commander Vaderix. It's about establishing the truth and determining consequences. Donovan added, and perhaps learning from mistakes on both sides. Vaderix looked up sharply. Both sides? What mistakes did Earth make, other than being too clever in concealing your true capabilities? We should have established clear communication channels, Beck replied. We knew there were other spacefaring species. Our policy of appearing less advanced than we or may have contributed to your misconceptions. The proceedings continued with testimony from various witnesses, including Saraxa, who provided valuable insight into how thoroughly the Kraza had misjudged Earth's defenses. We believed we were facing a world of divided nations with limited space capabilities, she explained. Our intelligence suggested Earth had only recently achieved lunar colonization and possessed no significant military presence beyond low Earth orbit. And yet, one judge noted, you encountered something quite different. Yes, Sarax acknowledged. A unified planetary defense system with layered capabilities far beyond our estimates. What we initially engaged, what we now know was merely Colonel Donovan's scout unit, demonstrated technology that should have alerted us to the possibility of greater forces in reserve. But you ignored these signs, the judge prompted. Supreme Commander Vaderix interpreted them as desperate measures rather than calculated restraint, Saraxa replied, casting a glance at her former commander. A classic intelligence failure, interpreting data to fit our preconceived notions rather than adjusting our understanding based on new information. After days of testimony, the tribunal reached its decision. Vaderix would be returned to the Kraza Imperium along with most of his surviving forces, but under strict conditions: a non-aggression treaty, reparations for damage caused, and the permanent assignment of Earth observers to Kraza military command structures. As Vaderix was led away, he paused before Donovan. One question, Colonel. When did you know you could defeat us? Donovan considered the question. We didn't know, for certain, but we've been preparing for this possibility for generations. While Earth appeared divided and technologically modest to outside observers, we were building, planning, and unifying. Your arrival simply accelerated the timeline,